All right, guys, welcome back to Keepin' It Comic, and we're diving here into Venom War, the first issue of this series here, and there are so many good things in this issue that I cannot wait to talk about. So right out of the gate, we start out at the Grand Garden Arena in New York City at a live publicized event. So there's a guy there who calls himself Symbiote Smith, the Clintarian Nightmare, who is standing in a ring, and he issues an open challenge to the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation for his unlimited golden belt. Now, this is a challenge that is open to any man or alien alike. And as challengers start to approach him in the ring, they notice a light. And when they turn around, we see Time Split Eddie Brock coming out of the time stream. Now, all of these symbiotes are Eddie, but just Eddie from different times in his life. We have Wild, there's Tyro, there's Bedlam, and Eddie, who was the only one that has his original human body. Now, for some context, and bear with me here if you already know this, these four had teamed up against Meridius after they were thrown into the time stream, which happened, by the way, because Carnage destroyed the Garden of Time. Now, Meridius is another version of Eddie Brock, a temporal version that has lived for a millennia. Now, Meridius is the second to last form of Eddie before he becomes Eventuality, who is someone that we'll talk about a little bit later on. So technically, the Eddies that you see here, Meridius has already lived all of their lives. Meridius originally had one focus, which was Dylan Brock, Eddie's son. He needed to learn how to use the symbiotes on another level, so Q, Kang the Conqueror. Kang teaches Eddie how to fight, to shape the symbiotes into weapons, and how to affect time to get his desired results, because Eddie can send his mind throughout time. So this corrupts that Eddie and turns him into Meridius that forgets his true purpose of Dylan and is just trying to become all-powerful. On the other hand, our 616 Eddie doesn't forget Dylan and doesn't trust Kang and wants to time travel with his body, which sets him on a different path. Meridius does what Kang would do and ensures his survival by creating a time loop, changing small things here and there to make sure that all the other versions of Eddie come into existence and eventually become Meridius. So after these four find out this information, they casted out Meridius out of the time stream to a deep past time that was long before humans. And then they set themselves on this path to come back to Earth to save Dylan. So as we are back in the ring, these Eddies crash this belt contention hard. When Eddie asks this guy, who is he supposed to be? He answers, I'm a symbiote, to which Eddie says, are you now? And then proceeds to beat the crap out of him. And let's just say that the other Eddies, they proceed to do the same to any of the fools that dare to step into the ring. But at the end of the brawling, Eddie takes the mic and tells everyone, this ring is ours now, and it belongs to the Kings in Black, and you don't get it back until we get what we want, and what we want is two things. He wants his son, and he wants his other. And the other that he's referring to is the Venom symbiote, because he's not bonded with the Venom symbiote right now. And he continues to mention, this is not just for some belt, but it's for something far more important, and welcome to the Venom War. Now, speaking of the Venom symbiote, he is currently hiding in Peter Parker's closet, and he is bringing us on a trip down memory lane. His earliest memory was when he had first gone against what he says his king, where he was later discovered by his first host, whose name was Telkar. Now, Telkar was a Kree soldier who was a part of the Kree Skrull War, and unfortunately for Venom, the first thing that he ever knew was war. He mentioned how Telkar wasn't a true host, but was just someone who controlled him, and in the end, damaged him, and how he felt bad inside for all the things that he did. But then his second memory was another soldier he called, who is Peter Parker, the Spider-Man. It was here where Venom felt true compassion, a strong guilt that demanded that all lives be saved. He called him Saint Peter. He remembered Peter calling him not bad, which at the moment was very big for Venom because all he knew before that was bad. He took on this war and even piloted Peter's body when he was sleeping to protect people of the world. He mentioned how he wanted to be with him forever and was hurt when Peter tried to destroy him. He hurt him even more when Peter was willing to die just not to be bonded with him anymore. Even then, as he mentioned, he still saved Peter's life and how he still fought for his war against death itself, which is what brought him to Eddie Brock. So he saw that Eddie thought he was bad. that he was poisoned by shame and self-hate, not by the cancer he mentions, which Venom admits he made that whole thing up just to make him stay. Damn it, Venom! Now, Venom felt he had the responsibility to save Eddie that night. Of course, we know the story. Eddie hated Spider-Man after he ruined his career. Venom hated Spider-Man because he rejected him. It was a match made in heaven, or probably most likely hell, that joined them together. Although Venom is trying to convince himself that it was to save Eddie's life, but let's be real, we all know the truth. And Venom mentioned that there were so many more hosts that he had. He mentioned someone named Angelo Fortunato. He mentions Matt Gargan. He mentions even Flash Thompson. But the ones that he's most distraught over here is Dylan Brock. He wanted to protect Dylan, to be his soldier in this war, to save lives, but that ultimately got Dylan killed. So he feels guilty about that. He just feels like he's a parasite overall, and he just ruins overall lives. Now, he doesn't know that Dylan is actually alive. He was told that to be true, that Dylan was brought back to life, but he hasn't seen him yet in the physical, so he doesn't believe it, especially considering that it was Meridius that told him in the first place. Now, speaking of Dylan, he is very much alive, and he is living underground right now in the sewers. Now, in a previous issue, Dylan was confronted by a future version of himself who had told him that it's time to prepare for war. Now, Dylan is a head case right now because leading up to this point, a lot has happened to him. Number one, Carnage killed him. And right before he did that, Carnage showed him all the pain and the suffering that the Venom symbiote had caused with all of his previous hosts, including his father, which caused Dylan to lose the trust in Venom. That opened the door for Carnage to remove the Venom symbiote from Dylan, and then Carnage stabbed him straight through the heart, killing him. Now, after that, Dylan ends up meeting Eventuality, who, as I mentioned earlier, is the final form of Eddie Brock after Meridius. Eventuality gave Dylan the opportunity to ask 5 questions. One of those questions was, what would happen if his father Eddie were to bond with the symbiote again? What Eventuality showed was Eddie Brock becoming something that looks like a no, saying that the 9th Cosmos will be the last Cosmos and how it will be the last standing in the void. That we are the anti-all, we are Venom. And that is what Dylan Brock is trying to prevent from happening. Current Dylan and future Dylan are trying to stop this. The issue for Dylan is that it's all too overwhelming and he doesn't really understand what it all means. Future Dylan is telling them, though, that he will understand later on in the future when he is older. Future Dylan also mentions that he has a time machine and that the time machine that he is using is Doom Tech and that he needs Dylan to help him in order to kill the future. He discussed how there are 3 main points in the past that he needs to push on, and if done right, the future will be killed. He plans on making current Dylan a weapon, which I'm not gonna lie to you, kind of just makes him sound like Meridius. He states that this needs to be done unless you want your dad to become a no, and that it's not just the 9th Cosmos that they'll need to worry about if this happens. Now, future Dylan was about to tell current Dylan something really important. He was starting to say that the only symbiote that he needs to watch out for is, but then right before he could finish, Brent Waters, aka Toxin, comes in and future Dylan disappears before he could finish that statement. Now, Brent lets Dylan know that his dad was on TV. Now, Dylan does have a crew of symbiotes that he's running with. There is Toxin that we just talked about here. There's Sleeper, there's Red Goblin, there's Flexo, there's the Rubber Man, right? Now, Dylan wants to confront his dad, but the crew, mainly Brent, does not want that to happen because that's basically what Eddie wants, right? Dylan lets them know, though, like, listen, I was the one that put this crew together. I'm the one that makes the decisions here. But Brent is like, bro, Venom put us together and he's not here anymore. You're just a kid and you're his kid of all kids, right? And that is exactly what he wants. And even if you can fight him, can you actually even fight him? Now, in the meantime, back at Alchemix, they are cooking up something. There is a table of 4 that are discussing their options on what to do about the Eddie situation. Now, the first initial option discussed, of course, was killing. It seems as if, though, Liz, the CEO, wasn't thrilled with the idea of sending mercs after Eddie in the first place. Now, one person mentions that the mercs were recommended, and with certain talent now being dead, that they were kind of short of options. Now, another person implies that this is not the case, and that he's heard that Alchemix still has some hidden resources. And with that being said, he ushers in another gentleman who states is a top consultant for his company, who he mentions has a solution for the problem. And this man that he introduces is none other than a man named Mr. Meridius. Yes, Meridius. You see that tie right there? You see that logo right there? That is Meridius. He tells them that he's been studying Eddie Brock for some time, and he knows him as well as he knows himself. Well, of course you do, Eddie. I mean, Mr. Meridius, sir. He discusses how Alchemax previously before had a chemical leak called K43. Now, K43 is a chemical that was supposed to make humans immune to symbiotes, but it ended up being highly toxic to humans and also symbiotes as well. So he mentions that he has developed a new chemical called K44, which is improved and now has a secret ingredient. I wonder what that secret ingredient could be, which he mentions will win them the Venom War. Now, back at Peter's apartment, Peter saw Eddie on the TV, and when he goes to his closet to put on his suit, guess what he finds? The Venom symbiote. Now, the reason why Venom was hiding in the closet in the first place is because he knew that Peter would be the one person that would not try to bond with him. Venom explains to Peter that he feels that he is no good for either Dylan or Eddie right now, and that they are both better off without Venom, to which Peter disagrees, stating that it is very clear that Eddie is not good without him, and he believes that at least he could be providing some sort of guidance for Dylan. Now, Venom is letting Peter know that Dylan knows too much about Venom's past and the things that he has done, which is the reason why he can never bond with him again. Now, Venom is essentially pleading to Peter to have Peter help them instead. But Peter is not giving up on Venom. He has seen good in Venom before. He recalls a time when he bonded with Flash Thompson, which made him a hero, and he knows that there is still at least some good that is left in him. He tells him that he's got a choice to make here, right? With great power comes great responsibility. Now, back inside the ring, while all the Eddies were standing around, they start to sense a symbiote presence around them. Eddie realizes that this symbiote, whoever it is, knows camouflage and then identifies that this is this Sleeper symbiote, and he asks Sleeper whether or not he's brought Dylan with him. Well, it wouldn't be a good start to the Venom War without the other opposition showing up, would it? So in comes Dylan and the rest of the crew. So Dylan wants to know, listen, are we going to talk about this or not? Eddie, playing the concerned father role, lets him know the time to talk will come and that he's glad that he's safe, but where is Venom? Which Dylan lets him know, well, Dad, I can't let you do that, which as we know is because he doesn't want him to become a no. But on the other hand, Eddie doesn't want Dylan to have Venom either, because he also saw a different future if Dylan keeps the symbiote. And what that future is that all of Earth is now trapped in a never-ending symbiosis that would never end, called Venom War. So he doesn't want that to happen. So both of them don't want each other to have the symbiote. So Dylan is like, yeah, that sounds bad, but what I mean is that I don't have the symbiote, which pisses off Eddie because Venom, he said, had one job, which was to protect Dylan and to stay bonded to him, but he doesn't know why they're separated. And Dylan, on the other hand, is like, dude, why do you even care? I haven't seen you in months, and I've been living on the streets. And listen, man, do they have a lot of counseling to do, you hear me? Now, Dylan goes on to tell him that he's seen everything bad that Venom and Eddie have done together, everything. To which Eddie is like, everything? And also, like, where is Venom again? Well, where he is what we see next. Remember his old pal, Peter Parker, that he bonded with way back when? Well, don't call it a comeback, ladies and gentlemen, but here he is again. And according to Peter, Venom is in good hands now. Honestly, guys, this was a great start to this story here. I am looking forward to covering the rest of these issues. We're going to be covering all the main issues of this series here on the channel, as well as some tie-ins as well. This is going to be a lot of fun here. Subscribe to the channel for more if you haven't done so already. Leave a like on this video here to help out the YouTube algorithm. Join the Discord for further updates. And as always, guys, thank you so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic.